Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Trent Steele, retired Secret Service agent, Director of Safety and Security now in the private sector. And man, I just want to take a second to talk a little bit about the things that are on my mind in light of this recent attempt at the life of President Trump and some other protectees that were there. First and foremost, let me just say that I am horribly disappointed in many of you that have a large platform out there and talk about security. Frankly, for even more disappointed in those of you who have a platform out there and don't know anything about security or protecting the president or any of that. And yet you think you should have an opinion like we should gut the whole thing and start completely over and that type of reactionary nonsense. It's horribly disappointing to me that you wouldn't have the humility to say things like, you know, I've never done this before. I've never had to secure a building where the president came. But this seems a little off, you know, a little humility, a little nuance, a little, hey, this is probably not, I'm probably seeing this from a different light than someone who actually has done it before. You know, it cracks me up, or the idea that we should turn over protection to some special forces guys. Special forces guys don't have to worry about the Constitution. They don't have to worry about whether or not citizens are the good guy or the bad guy. They go in and they kill everybody in the room. This is an entirely different beast that we're talking about. The protection of the president inside the United States, outside the United States. It can't be done that way, okay? So have some humility out there. Most of you have no idea what you're talking about. And so at least ask someone who does. And I'm not, you know, it doesn't have to be me, but ask some questions before you just start posting things that are ridiculous out there. All right, let's talk a little bit about the event itself. Some things that I've heard, some questions that have been arisen. How on earth, Trent, was that Hilton open to the public? And people were able to come in that weren't going through magnetometers. We normally don't go in and shut a business down. I'm not saying we don't sometimes, but normally speaking, that's frowned upon by the business, by the company. They want to be able to stay open to the public while also keeping, you know, working with us to keep the president safe. We normally don't go in and just shut a building down. We can section off buildings, secure that area of the building, and then, you know, allow both to happen. You know, for an event, whether, and here's the other thing, nobody would rather shut the whole building down than the Secret Service, I assure you. We have been sued over and over and over again by businesses or entities or even businesses in the area because we came in and had such a heavy footprint that they lost tons of business that day or whatever. We get sued all the time for pushing our perimeter so far out that we can't defend it in court. And so there's nothing we'd rather do as a Secret Service than go in and just shut her down. And then we push everybody out, and then we, you know, bring them in one at a time through magnetometers, check IDs, the whole thing. Like, there's nothing we'd rather do than that. But over and over again, we get sued and lose because we push protesters so far out they can't see the president. We push people out. Businesses have to close, that kind of a thing. So it's not as easy as just go in and kill everybody there, okay? Let's talk a little bit about the mag checkpoint that our friend flew by sprinting down the hall. A couple things I'll say about that. When an event begins, we start shutting the mags down. Nobody else is allowed in. Clearly, that group of people that were there at that magnetometer, not all of those, first of all, were Secret Service agents. As a matter of fact, I'd guess, I don't know for sure, but I'd guess there was probably one actual Secret Service agent there. There were 2 or 3 probably uniform division guys there. And then probably some local police there as well. So who shot who, whatever. I mean, if I had to guess, I would guess it was probably one of our uniform division guys ended up shooting our agent. I don't really know that. I'm not sure. My point being is that wasn't all Secret Service guys there. I will admit that there's a little bit of bad luck to the fact that for some reason, everyone had turned backwards. Somebody dropped a glass. Who knows? Who knows what caused everybody to look backwards at the same time as the guy was coming down the hall? I get what you're saying there. Yes, that's not ideal. But the reality is that happens. Everybody turned around. By the time everybody turned back around, this guy's sprinting at them. So then the question becomes, who shot who or whatever. The reality is, in that type of crossfire, that's a bad situation for everybody to be in there. Ultimately, that layer of security failed. Here's what you're not getting. We win, the Secret Service, any security entity wins by layering security. You've seen this in my push out the perimeter video, but the reality is that although this guy got past the first layer of security, he was not getting anywhere near the president. As a matter of fact, you know how I know he wasn't getting, well, I know that because I used to do this, but the reality is I know what was between him and the president, and he wasn't getting anywhere near it. That's why the president wouldn't get up and leave, because he was like, whoa, let's see how this plays out. Like he did not feel concerned whatsoever until finally they said, sir, we got to go. Let's go, get up and go. He was the one pushing back. So for those of you who are like, how on earth would they send J.D. Vance out first and not the president? Bro, they're getting them both out of there as soon as possible, but you're at the mercy of whether or not the guy gets up and goes. Now, can you pick him up? Yeah, but he's 80. Is that a good idea? Do I pick him up, drag him out at 80 and maybe break him, break a bone or something like that? It doesn't seem to really make sense. J.D. Vance grabbed, got up, went. The president chose to, I want to see how this plays out. And then finally they convinced him, we got to go. Same thing happened in Butler. So if you want to be mad about somebody about that, talk to the president, all right? I assure you those guys were saying, sir, we got to go, let's go. And eventually he did. So get off of it with they chose one over the other, or why didn't they get him out of there? You don't know what you're talking about. Layers of security. There are layers of security there that you saw. There are layers of security there that you don't know anything about. He wasn't getting anywhere near the president. Was not happening, or the vice president, or anyone. Ultimately, that's just wasn't going to happen. All right, I'm a big believer in keeping these videos under 10 minutes, so I'm going to wrap it up. I am going to say one last thing. This will be moderately controversial, but it is what it is. DEI is a problem with the United States Secret Service. End of story. I retired in late 2023, and it was one of the reasons I chose to walk away, because we were hiring people we wouldn't have hired before. It wasn't everyone. There were still some amazing candidates, some amazing agents, young agents coming in, but there were some coming in that had no business being there. Having said that, that's not what happened the other night, okay? That's not what happened. What happened the other night is that, as Mike Tyson says, everybody gets punched in the mouth. I mean, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. The punch in the mouth happened. Everyone reacted. Some things went well. Some things did not go well. But because we layered security, we did it correctly. The president went home. The vice president went home. And really, they were drinking wine while the guy was shooting. Like, nobody felt terribly worried there. For whatever reason. Say what you want about that. But generally speaking, the guy got nowhere near the president. And so, having said that, I realize this will be, I'll hear things like, well, what about if he'd had a bulletproof vest on? What if he'd had this on? Listen, let's push the perimeter out. Let's push it further out. Let's own the hotel. I'm all fine with that. I'll let you call the Hilton company and let them know that we are doing that. I'll let you call the courts and let them know that we've decided to push the perimeter out no matter where we go, all the way to the end of the block. There's nothing that nothing. I'm not going to speak for the Secret Service. There's nothing that as a Secret Service agent I would have loved more as the site agent than for you to tell me you got the whole thing, buddy. It's all yours. Nobody can come in unless they're coming through your magnetometers. If you want to change that part of the culture with the Secret Service, you're going to need to change the court system and give them more authority than they currently have. They're only allowed to push it out to a certain distance, okay? And as far as hiring goes, I'm with you. I think everybody should have to be a stud coming through there. I think, when I first got hired, we hired 1 out of 100. And that wasn't happening when I retired. We were hiring people we shouldn't have been hiring. You want to fix that? I'm all for it. Go fix it. But stop talking about things you don't have any idea about, especially those of you who have a big platform. All right, thanks.